Good afternoon. We appreciate everybody coming out for today's very important announcement. I made a statement yesterday that was part of the release that we put out regarding the appointment of Dave Leitao, and I said words to the effect in that release that we had successfully concluded our search. Well, I think that that was a gross understatement. We have not just successfully concluded the search, in my opinion. We have brought to the University of Virginia a superb man, a superb basketball coach, and a person that's going to have a dramatic impact on the university and its surrounding communities. The time that we have today, I think, is a time of celebration. Dave Leitao, as I've gotten to know him over 20-some years now, is a man that is prepared for the kind of position that he's going to assume as of today. The types of adjectives that have been used to describe him, as I've talked with friends and those that are in the college basketball industry over the past several weeks, the adjectives used most frequently are things like disciplinarian, tough, fair, hardworking, thoughtful, educator, and I think those are adjectives that just scratch the surface in terms of who this man is and the way in which he will oversee our men's basketball program. There are a number of priorities that I felt as though had to be a part of this search. First of all, I wanted a person who would effectively recruit young people to participate in our program here at the University of Virginia. And I think throughout his career, he has been one that has had a keen eye for talent, and once bringing that talent into his program or the programs that he represented, the second priority for me is he and the staffs with whom he has worked have had an ability to develop the skills of those players, develop those skills into championship level skills, coordinating the abilities of those players, and again, building championship teams. Also, I wanted a coach whose team would rebound relentlessly, rebound aggressively, and his teams, in particular at DePaul University, as I had a chance to spend some time this week watching game films, they rebound the heck out of the basketball. And also, I wanted to bring to the university a man whose teams would play defense. And as I watched game films, Tuesday night or Wednesday night of this week in a hotel room in Chicago, his teams play shutout defense. His teams guard you. His teams make a statement about how the game is going to be played when they play, in this case, the University of Virginia's basketball teams. As I said, I've known Dave for over 20 years, and probably the reason that I'm in athletics administration is because while he was an assistant coach at Connecticut and I was a head basketball coach at Rutgers University, he and his staff routinely would come into New Jersey and beat us for kids. So he put me out of business, or at least partly put me out of business in that part of my career. Let me just finish by saying that this appointment feels right. And I think most of all, the appointment of Dave Leitao is an appointment that fits. It fits the University of Virginia, and this is the time, and the time is right. So with that, I introduce to you head basketball coach, University of Virginia, Mr. Dave Leitao.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Craig. Let me just first of all say how unbelievably elated that my family and I are for this opportunity. For the 21 years that I've been in college coaching and the 5 years that I spent in college, I've always looked at the University of Virginia with great admiration for a lot of the teams that I've seen play, but most importantly for the reputation and what the name brings to not only college athletics, but how it transcends itself into American culture. And so to be linked to this great university at this time in my life, in my family's life, is overwhelming. And I think that it will be a great honor to not only be the basketball coach, but be a torchbearer for the future at such a critical time in this athletic department's history. And so the words will never express the kind of joy that I'm feeling right now. Let me first of all thank a few people. Let me start out by thanking God, who gives me the strength every single day to forge ahead and do the things that human beings can't do by themselves. My family, my wife Joyce, who is the backbone by which I walk every day, my 3 boys, David, Reese, and Tyson, my sister Susan, who is my cheerleader without actually having pom-poms in her hand, and the rest of my family who gave me a foundation by which to live and how to treat people and how to walk every single day. President John Castine, I want to thank you for this opportunity. Obviously, it's been written over the past few weeks about the relationship that we have had and shared over 20 years. And when we first came to know each other as an assistant basketball coach, it's very rare that you get to know a college president. But his interest, not only in academics but in athletics, allowed our paths to cross at a very, very young and important time in my career. I was amazed to know that he's followed it as closely as he has, and it's led us to this point back again and rejoining forces, because I think for what he sees as a visionary for this university, especially as it relates to our basketball program, will allow me to do the job that it's going to be intended to do. By my side, I want to also thank Athletic Director Craig Littlepage, another man that I've admired and tried to emulate during the course of my basketball career. I remember him as a coach at the University of Rutgers, and then when I looked at him back then, I didn't see a basketball coach. I saw a man who happened to coach basketball and who stood for something. And I took that and part of that and put it in my pocket and used it as I trekked through the rest of my career and tried to do some of those same things. I thank you, Craig, for that opportunity to be around you then and to know you now and to help put me in this position of leadership. I want to thank DePaul University, who gave an assistant coach an opportunity to become a head coach again. When I left Northeastern University in 1996, I did it without ever knowing that I would become a head coach again. Jean Lenti Ponsetto, our athletic director, is an absolute star in our industry. Her warmth, her compassion, her foresight, and her toughness has allowed me to do the things that we've been able to do together over the past 3 years. And DePaul has been and will continue to be a very, very special place for me and for my family, and I will always have that and carry that within my heart. With all that said, as I mentioned, words can't express how excited I am to be part of your family and to make this my family so that we can ultimately, as a family, continue to grow. There are many, many people that will share in our positive experiences, not only as you look at us on a basketball court, but as a basketball program. And our program will never be about just one win or one loss or one coach or one player. It will be about the fabric by which we can all live by. So every day that we compete and every day that we play, it will be about winning. It will be about positive play. It will be about the things that I think make people better. And that's how I try to operate within the confines of our court and within the confines of how I try to teach every single day. My vision, is to take this basketball program and put it on a championship level, both on and off the court, to do it in a way, as I mentioned, that each one of our players, each one of the coaches, and everybody that's attached to it can be extremely proud of. That is what I see for the University of Virginia in its mission, and that's what I want and will make sure to have happen on the basketball court. We'll do it as a partnership with our community, both local and national. our alumni, our boosters, to make them a part of it. We'll link the past to the future, especially at a critical time, as I mentioned, across the street with the John Paul Jones Arena getting ready to open. I think it's a great time to bring all of those things together, and I fully intend every single day to make sure that everybody is a part of it. In this room are a group of guys that have come to this university for a particular mission. I've heard a lot. I don't know a lot, but I know over the next couple of weeks that we'll share each other, and I'll understand what their goals and aspirations are collectively as a team and then individually as well. But I can tell you that the next time we play a basketball team, that these young men will play and fight together like never before. It's going to be very important that we share a lot of each other, that they get to know me and feel like they have a coach who believes in them, who can give them confidence and give them the parameters by which they can be successful. So that when we do win, we'll win together, top to bottom. Initially, I think I want to evaluate everything about this program, what makes it tick, some of the things that makes it special, and some of the things that we can all put our fingerprints on to make sure that it gets better and better. We want to build, not for today, not just for tomorrow, but for long-lasting success. That's what I've been about. That's been my history. I really don't know it any other way. I don't like, nor do I know a whole lot about failure, and so I enter into this process to know that winning is something that we will do, and I believe that from the bottom of my heart. My simple motto for our guys and for our program is to be the best that you can possibly be. And when you do that every single day of your life and you challenge yourself more than anybody else can challenge you, that wherever you land, that will be someplace special. And so not only will I ask that amongst our players, but I'll ask it from everybody within this university community. And more importantly, I'll ask it from myself continually every day to be the best that we can be. And that will put Virginia basketball at the forefront of college athletics. Thank you very much, and I'll take any questions.
Craig used the phrase, "This just felt right." When you came and toured the grounds, saw the facilities, met the people, what gave you that gut feeling that this University of Virginia culture felt right for Dave Leitao?
More than anything else, I base a lot of what I make decisions on relationships. And when I drove through here and looked at some of the places and did it with Craig, I was awestruck. And I'd been on campus a few times, but awestruck by the way the campus felt and the way it looked. And it was a normal day, and the students were doing what students do during the course of a weekday. But something hit me that I had not felt before. And that only enhanced what I mentioned about relationships, because the two gentlemen that I mentioned, both President Castine and Craig, made me and my family feel special from day one. And I knew what their vision was for what they want out of our basketball program, and it matched exactly what I was thinking was needed for this basketball program as well. And so that, more than anything, let me know that it was the right thing to do.
As a follow-up, how vital was it for you, if you were going to leave DePaul and make a change, to find a university with standards and philosophy that were really tailored to your personal standards and philosophy?
Extremely important. And DePaul has been and will continue to be, as I mentioned, a special place for me. And I had great relationships. I think that part of what the future for Virginia basketball will be about not only tremendous basketball, but tremendous relationships. Our players to each other, our university community, the media, and everybody involved in our success. I knew that it is primed for championship level success, and that's what brought me here.
What were your impressions of the John Paul Jones Arena when you first saw it? How enticing or helpful will that be in your job? And after seeing that, are you going to regret the 1 year you have to spend in U-Haul?
You know, before I came on campus, I took the virtual tour that one can take online, and was awestruck. And I mentioned to Craig, in the first round of the NIT, we played at the University of Missouri, and they have a new arena as well. And I took a walking tour myself after practice in preparation to play, and it was quite impressive. That was a $70 million building. So for $130 million, one could imagine the amenities and the things that it will have to make it, the day it opens, the most special college basketball arena in America. And I think having that as a selling point for the future of this university is tremendous. It's paramount to what we need to do, having a comforting home that we know will be there with all the things that will make our players be the best that they can be and have have a first-rate building to operate in. It will be tremendous. And, I've been in University Hall, and I know and have played there with teams from Connecticut, and it's always been a terrific home court advantage, and it will remain that for this year.
Dave, Doug Dowdy of the Roanoke Times. Most of the information we've gotten deals with your career after college. Could you talk a little bit about where you grew up, what kind of family you had, what kind of player you were maybe growing up?
You don't want to know what kind of player I was. I grew up in New Bedford, Massachusetts. It's an hour south of Boston, right before you get to Cape Cod. And grew up with my mother and my four sisters, and very normal, very loving household, and we emphasized hard work and we emphasized athletics. Two of my sisters, my two younger sisters, Susan, who's with me, and my other sister Diane, were into sports. Diane was a scholarshiped athlete and played basketball at Providence College. Susan played professionally, basketball-wise, in Europe, and so it gave me a path, and as most siblings do, somebody to look up to with regards to sports. Went on to college at Northeastern University, which is obviously in Boston, and pretty moderate success as a basketball player, but our teams did very well. I think it's there that I found out what playing and being around successful basketball was about. Jim Calhoun, at his age then, was a tremendous leader and gave me some things that I still carry from that point with me today. I learned that when it was over, that there was much more that I wanted to do, and I used that work ethic that I learned there to help me in coaching and remain with me today.
Dave, could you talk about what your priorities and process will be for putting together a staff and when you'd like to have that in place?
That's probably, if not the first, and one of the first priorities that I have. Before I make any final commitments, I want to evaluate, everything here and the situation and what's needed, and we'll continue to do so probably throughout this week and come up with a championship-level staff.
One of the things that Dave has mentioned to me as a priority would be a link to the history of the program. People that know the region, people that know the state, people that know the ACC, people that know the University of Virginia. And I think that he has been very thoughtful, at least in that preliminary process of thinking through how to complement his abilities and what he feels as though will be needed to drive these young men to maximize their abilities.
Michael Arkish, Washington Post. Congratulations.
Thank you, Michael.
Have you had a chance to talk to any players yet? And how much of last year's games did you see any? Last year, or the last couple of years, any of the Virginia games?
We talked. I tried to reach out to all of the guys yesterday to, obviously, more importantly than anything else, to put them at ease, to know that we can move forward and we can move forward together. I talked to probably about half of them. We're going to talk after we get finished with our obligations here, so that, as I mentioned, we can continue to move forward. I watched, like most people watch in college basketball, because Virginia was on TV a lot, games, but I didn't watch with any particular value other than to see how the game was being played. I've watched some films recently. Craig has given me a number of game film that I've been able to review. And I see a team with a lot of potential. Whatever has went on, I'm going to put on the back shelf and leave it away and start today to focus in on the only thing that matters, and that's tomorrow and being the best we can be for the upcoming season.
Dave, Hank Kurz with the Associated Press. One of the things that seems to be a challenge that's kind of been tough for some of the coaches here is the academic standards and when you recruit and things like that. How much of a challenge do you expect that to be with recruiting, as opposed to maybe what it was at DePaul or other places you've been?
Well, throughout the years that I've spent in coaching, we've always tried to be around and recruit the highest quality student athlete. There's a lot of things that go into that. Obviously, we look at the things everybody else does, which is transcripts and test scores and those kind of things. And the reputation that this university has will always be protected. I think the way college basketball is going now, Miles Brand taking over a few years ago to lead college athletics, has made a specific statement about where, in this particular case, basketball on the collegiate level will go with our new APR ratings and what will happen with student athletes over the next few years. The University of Virginia and schools that want to be like the University of Virginia will become part of the successful fabric of college athletics because there's so much more of an emphasis being put at the top on student athletes. And I believe that as a basketball coach, if I mean what I say, which I do, then I would require from our young men to transcend basketball, to look at basketball as only a tool to become successful. And I think that is part of the university mission, and I think will be very, very attractive to anybody who would be interested in us.
How have you evolved as a coach in the decade or so since you were at Northeastern?
I think I've made sure to become well-rounded, to look at things on both sides of the fence, to know why you win, to accept losing the right way and make sure that you don't have it repeat itself. And through that evolutionary process to know, as a basketball coach, that you have to be more than just that. You have to be more than the guy that walks up and down the sidelines and directs his team. That when people look at you or people look at your team or people look at your program, they don't just look at you in one dimension. And I think over the last 10 years, I think being multidimensional is something that has been good for my career.
You mentioned adaptability before. Could you kind of give an overview of what your team will look like, how they'll play, what their style would be, what their characteristics will be?
It's a little bit unfair to know exactly because, again, we've got to spend a lot of time together, both athletically and philosophically. But I know there are core values that I have as a coach, and Craig mentioned a couple of them, and that I believe, and I learned from Coach Calhoun 20 years ago, and I learned it as a player, that it doesn't matter how well you shoot or how fast you run or how high you jump. Everybody can play defense if they're committed to it, and so that's something that I believe very, very strongly in. Rebounding, like defense, doesn't have to be a talent issue, so it's something that everybody can participate in and do very well. Every basketball coach in America wants to play hard, but I believe there's another level. There's playing hard, and then there's playing hard. And I'd like to think that all the teams that I've ever been around have been able to reach and surpass that level. And so those core values are what we'll be about every single day. How we play and the style we play obviously will be very exciting for our fans, but it will be conducive to winning. I've already reached out to a number of both high school and AAU coaches in the area that already know me and know what I'm about. But now that they know I'm in their backyard, that we can have a sustained relationship that will be positive for not just us, but for them. That they know that there's a place here that if their young men decide to come here will be a comforting place and that they will excel in. And I think this is a great area for basketball. I've watched over the years that Virginia high school basketball players on the collegiate level excel. Our surrounding states, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, and I think the ACC community in general is something that has always tapped into this area and done very well. So we'll continue to do that, as well as go nationally. I think part of the strength that we had at the University of Connecticut was to globalize ourselves and not just stay on a local level. And so I think the incorporation of both of those will be very, very good. As I look around this university, I don't see why. I see why not. And with a core group of guys that I believe will be willing to work and share with one another, then it's amazing what you'd be able to do if everybody's on the same page. And I think it's a long-term process. I think in the short term we'll be able to compete extremely hard. But I'm not doing this just for today or just for tomorrow. I'm here to make sure that this program remains in great shape and on a championship level for many, many years to come. Pressure is a relative term. I don't think that anybody will put any more pressure on me than I do it myself to make sure that we play the game the right way. And I think if you build it, they will come theory rings true in this, and that if the team that gets on the court every night competes the way that I know that they will, then everything else will fall into place. Whomever we play against is going to know that we will fight you for every inch of the floor, and we will be the toughest out that they'll face.